All right, let's go to the Cincinnati Bengals. They had 6 picks. They came in with 6 picks. They left with 6. They don't do a ton of, they'll trade up and down a little bit, but not a lot of times that they're drafting in high volume. So Shamar Stewart, edge rusher out of Texas A&M in the first. Demetrius Knight, the South Carolina linebacker in the second round. Georgia guard Dylan Fairchild in the third. They go back to linebacker with Barrett Carter. Tackle/guard Jalen Rivers from Miami. And then Texas Tech running back Tahj Brooks. What were your overall thoughts on the Bengals draft here, Sam?
It's very unexciting, and a lot of people hate it. It's one of sort of the consensus least favorite drafts out there. I think it basically comes down to what Shamar Stewart ends up becoming. Like, if Shamar Stewart, we've talked about ad nauseum in the pre-draft process, this incredibly athletic Texas A&M edge rusher whose production has never been there, 2 sacks as a maximum in any season of his college career. The pressure rate is higher than the sack rate. So I think he is better than just 2 sacks every single season. But the pressure, the overall production has not been there. But every single person that turns on the tape and watches Shamar Stewart immediately is like, okay, I get it. I see that he could become something. I think it's more complicated than that. I do worry that he has the same level of change of direction of some of these other athletic, freaky pass rushers that have become good players in the NFL. He also falls off a ridiculous number of tackles for a guy that big, powerful, and strong. But basically, this draft ends up becoming a referendum on, is Shamar Stewart going to become a really good defensive end? If he is, the draft's fine. If he isn't, the draft probably looks like one of the worst out there.
Here are those measurables: 34 plus inch arms for defensive ends. Once you're over 34, you're in the rare territory. 84-inch wingspan. That's massive. Ran a 4.59 40 with a 1.58 get off. And again, we saw that in person at the Senior Bowl. I think as a straight line linear athlete, he is exceptional. And that leads to an incredible bull rush against certain tackles at the Senior Bowl. His get off is outstanding. Everything vertical is incredible, or linear. A 40-inch vertical, really good broad jump. He's a great explosive athlete. I think the change of, and then so the question is, can you turn it into production, right? This whole process, Sam, in the draft is trying to find productive football players. That's it. And we debate, do you need to be a certain size? Do you need a certain arm length to be a productive, all pointed toward to be a productive football player? Do you have to have previously been productive to be productive in the future? If you weren't productive previously, at what level athlete do you need to be to eventually get it? So these are the questions with Shamar Stewart. I always view production not from a sack total perspective. I assume if people were watching the network, everybody would say the big question is 1.5 sacks. The big question for me is he's had these measurables for 3 years in college. And the pressure rate, it's way better than the sack total. It's still not good relative to other first-round edge rushers. Everything from a production standpoint is below the level of recent first-round edge rushers. So now it's the question of recently, Trayvon Walker, Tyree Wilson, you can go back to Rashawn Gary a couple of years ago, and then later round picks like a Yaya Diaby or Daniil Hunter. Those are the types of players that we're looking at. Josh Sweat. It took him a few years, but he ended up figuring it out and just got paid. Had a really nice couple of years with the Eagles and just got paid by the Cardinals. So that's what we're looking at. Can he turn the incredible workouts, the incredible athleticism, the 5-star pedigree, can he turn that into NFL production? And so, I agree. Like the Bengals draft is very much dependent on that. I also think in the short term, I'm assuming Trey Hendrickson's going to be back, and I think he's, one of the best off the edge, right? And Shamar Stewart, he can win and be disruptive in the run game. He's better in the run game right now as far as just blowing up blocks and causing chaos. But I think he could do a little bit of that as a pass rusher, even if he's not finishing. So there's this element of like, hey, go be explosive and cause havoc, and Hendrickson will clean up, and hopefully we've got a little bit more interior rush. So there's a path here. I just don't know if there's the same path that certainly like an Abdul Carter or what we think Mike Green could be, or James Pierce, or some of the other rushers who have already produced at the college level, and they also have really good athleticism. So that's what we're looking at here with Shamar Stewart.
Yeah, his bull rush is crazy. Like, I would be I would be extremely surprised if his bull rush wasn't still effective at the NFL level, even if he never
Agreed.
developed anything else, right? Even if all he is a dude that has the power to effectively take a blocking sled and throw them back into the quarterback at a relatively decent rate. I would be pretty shocked if he couldn't do that at the next level. He is too big, strong, explosive, and powerful, and it's too devastating at the college level, at a good level. So, I think he will bring that to the table, and then we just don't know what else he's going to end up being able to produce. The one thing I would point out about this draft, though, going back to Arif Hassan's study relative to consensus value, etc., this doesn't feel like a good draft, but it does. That study effectively says they got good value with these picks, right?
Yeah.
The value of this draft is fine. It's just the specific players that they took and the positions that those players are. Like this was a low position value draft, and some of the players have some question marks.
Shout out to M in the chat, the super chat comment from him. M, I think the Bengals drafted Shamar specifically to defend the Ravens and Lamar because of his rollouts and scrambles. Now,
if they did, it's a terrible pick.
Well, from an athleticism perspective, I agree, and I've said that for a while. I think an athletic edge rusher who doesn't win one-on-one but holds the edge and is athletic enough to handle the quarterback is valuable in today's NFL. But what did you see on film, Sam?
He might be the worst of the top draft picks at edge rusher at that. He is horrendous at corralling a loose quarterback in turn. Like, there are so many plays where he has the guy wrapped up and just falls off the tackle. I would take, I think, literally any other top 10 edge rusher that I ranked over him for that specific role, including the ones that are significantly worse athletes than he is.
Yeah, that's it. It's like Jalen Walker. That was his specialty, so to speak. Obviously, he went off the board 2 picks earlier. That was his specialty. I think they drafted him hoping that the workout turns into production, and that's it.
There's a question in the chat there, or a comment in the chat there from DJ Dog 31 says maybe due to A&M's defensive scheme being cheeks. It is worth bringing that up, right?
Yeah.
Players have gone in both directions from that defense, and every single time they're worse at Texas A&M than they are anywhere else, right? Nick Scorton was better at Purdue than he was at Texas A&M. Players have left Texas A&M and been better once they left. I forget who was it. The Syracuse kid who was at Texas A&M before that. I forget who I'm referencing. But every time that Texas A&M defense seems to make them worse. It is. I do wonder the second you get Shamar Stewart out of that scheme if he immediately looks better.
Hey guys, just taking a quick break to tell you, hey, just over 50% of you are still unsubscribed to Check the Mic. It helps the channel. It helps to make sure that you don't miss any of our shows. So if you have a chance, hit the subscribe button right now. It is a fair question. My counter to that is always that could absolutely be true. But for me, it's easier to have seen them do it in the college level and have the athleticism, right? So it's still, again, same thing we talked about with Trayvon Walker. Oh, he's playing a 4 technique. He's playing inside over the tackle. He doesn't always get to rush. They're using him on stunts a lot at Georgia. Fine. That may have hurt the production number. There's still risk because we haven't seen him do it consistently, no matter what the reason is. But I think it's absolutely a fair point to say, why are the production numbers lower? Maybe it is Texas A&M.
Yes. Fadil Diggs is who I was talking about. 4 years at Texas A&M, goes to Syracuse, doubles his production, has a significantly better PFF pass rushing grade. I agree with you. Like, whether or not that is true, you don't know how much it, like, even if that is absolutely a factor, we have no idea how much of a factor.
On the other hand, I think it's like number 18 or something on A&M. Every time I was watching Scorton, Shamar Turner, Shamar Stewart,
right,
it was number 18, I think it was, that popped. He's a 2026 guy. And he had like a 90 pass rush grade. So it kind of worked. Maybe they were just freeing him up the whole time. I don't know, but that dude popped on film.
Or maybe that dude's the greatest pass rusher of the last 25 years, and he's being made look merely very good by Texas A&M's terrible scheme.
He's overcoming it. Just to touch on some of the other players, I think Demetrius Knight, linebacker for South Carolina, he's a solid football player. I know Lance Zierlein said, hey, last year he had the best linebacker tape of anybody that he saw. I think he said that. I don't know if that meant over Jahad Campbell and Carson Schwessinger, but at some point that was Lance's take. The concern there is it took 6 years to break out with Georgia Tech. Was it Tulane in between there? But third school, his best year was year 6 of college for Knight. Not a lot of ball production in the secondary as far as coverage goes. Pretty good run defender. Dylan Fairchild. I liked all of the Georgia offensive linemen on the interior. He's my third favorite. A lot of people wanted them to get Tate Ratledge. I wanted them to get Tate Ratledge, the second round Georgia guard. They just missed him. So they go with Fairchild, who I think, he's got some good core strength. He can hold up in pass protection. Solid player. Not sure he's ready to play right away, but that's a third round pick, right? Barrett Carter, another good linebacker prospect. Straight line speed, former safety. They brought him in to be the Isaiah Simmons role. I don't think he lived up to that completely, but a productive linebacker. And then Jalen Rivers, developmental tackle, and Tahj Brooks. A lot of people loved him at running back, deep running back class, and I think you have him as a contributor and a complement to Chase Brown.
Tahj Brooks could end up chewing up a significant amount of touches in this backfield. Really short and stocky and powerful guy. It was listed at 5'9", or no, it was measured at 5'9", 214 when he did, I think, the Shrine Bowl stuff. But apparently he was playing at like 230, and 230 at 5'9" is absurd. It's like Maurice Jones-Drew bowling ball type stuff. Crazy body type, like thick, stout, but he's got really solid wiggle and change of direction skills at that size. Elite change of direction numbers. Did a 6'9" 3-cone, a 406 short shuttle. Like those are impressive numbers for any size, let alone that kind of brick-shaped body. Pretty solid receiver. I think you can use him in the passing game and not just on checkdowns as well. You can have him run some routes. Made the all-practice team at the Shrine Bowl. Like I think, and the year before, like there's a few players that were better in 2023. 2023, that guy broke 98 tackles for Texas Tech. Like that's someone that's difficult to get to the ground. I put him as a useful day 3 contributor, and that's exactly what I think he's going to be for the Bengals.
That might end up being the best value pick in round 6. So here's the bottom line for me with the Bengals. For a team that has only 6 picks, has all this massive investment in Joe Burrow and the 2 receivers now, comes in with an offensive line need and just defensive line need, right? Deep defensive line draft, and they have offensive line needs because they just continually need to shore up that interior of the offensive line. And they come away with an upside edge rusher in the first round, 2 linebackers, a guard, a developmental tackle / guard, and a running back. That's the thing, right? So other teams, I think the other teams had 6 picks, and it was like 2 receivers, 2 corners, and 2 defensive linemen. Yeah. And I liked all the players at each of those spots, right? So it doesn't feel great to me because of the positional value. And in a deep defensive line draft, the one defensive lineman that you got, I think, has production, and he's a projection, right? So that's why it doesn't feel good, I think, to people grading this draft or to Bengals fans right now.
I've made this point a lot. I think collectively NFL teams are getting smarter, right? And we don't really have the drafts anymore where you look at it and you're like, I hate every one of these draft picks. I think this draft could have been achieved by having a guy randomly throw darts at a board, right? Those are gone. And so you're left with drafts like this where it's like, I don't love this draft. There's a couple of, like, I like Tahj Brooks. I understand the Shamar Stewart pick, and it's in the range where I would start considering taking him. Like, they didn't draft him, 2 overall or anything. So I get it, right? I don't love it. I wouldn't have made it happen like this. I would have targeted different positions, but I understand it. Like, I can't hate it. It's not one of my favorite drafts, but it's fine. It's middle of the road. And, sometimes it's kind of like, if you're not getting better, you're getting worse by comparison. It's kind of like that, right? I think some teams had great drafts, and in comparison to those teams, this is a bad draft. But in abstract terms, I don't think it's a bad draft.
All right, well, I'm going to wrap up the Bengals. Here's my analogy, Sam. When you're describing an NFL quarterback's arm, and you would say average NFL arm, well, how many of the 32 starters have at least an average NFL arm? Probably 30 have at least an average NFL arm, right? So it's like kind of on a curve. So everybody, because you're talking about baselines, I think that's what's going to happen with the Bengals. Like, it's like an average draft, but you're going to rank 30 of them above them, and so they're going to end up probably lower in the
that's what I'm saying. Is there just aren't that many train wreck drafts anymore, so it's probably one of the worst drafts, but I don't think it's bad.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
For more great content, click here to subscribe and here to watch another video. We'll see you again soon.